This is Brendan. He's 24, he's from South Africa, and Brendan suffers from a rare neurological problem called Emery-Dreifuss muscular dystrophy. Emery-Dreifuss muscular dystrophy is one of 9 types of muscular dystrophy. EDMD is characterized specifically by muscle weaknesses in the biceps, the calves, and also the heart. Now, this is a complex condition, so this requires research. Not just research into the condition itself, into Brendan's individual condition and how this manifests with him. There is no cure for EDMD, however it can be helped with use of corticosteroids and some other drugs. But our intention is to find a non-drug related intervention to help him. Now, Brendan's individual symptoms include weaknesses in the upper arms, the lower legs. Also a problem with balance. This is something that's been reported. And importantly, reduced mobility with the upper arms. Now, this is called contractures. And this lack of mobility is causing a problem when Brendan is throwing his uppercuts. And we've been asked to look at this specifically to see if there's something that we can do to help. Let's first have a look at what Brendan looks like now when he's doing his punches. Admittedly, before I saw him punching, when I was told about his problem, I was expecting to see someone who couldn't really punch particularly well at all. That's not the case. He's made some great progress since he started boxing, and he clearly has some good ability here. I was really pleasantly surprised with just how good he actually is. Finding a way to improve him is going to be more difficult, therefore, but that's the challenge that we're looking forward to working on. So as exercise specialists, we're looking for physical therapy and a remedial and therapeutic method of helping. This physical therapy is going to require 4 aspects. The first is going to be passive and active stretching to maintain and hopefully improve range of motion. Specifically, to counteract those contractures typical of EDMD. The second is strength exercises to maintain and hopefully improve strength to give a longer and better quality outcome. The third, respiratory techniques such as assisted coughing and working on breathing exercises to strengthen the respiratory muscles. Finally, activity, promotion and maintenance of a sensible program that will not cause tiredness. Let's begin with passive and active stretching. Now, stretching should be done after a warm-up. So as a general warm-up, I like to do stretching, particularly passive stretching, at the end of a session. By all means, active stretching can be done at the beginning, but assisted stretching, passive stretching should be done at the end. These are what we would call stretching development exercises. So once a good warm-up has been completed, the active stretches would normally begin at the top of the body and work to the bottom of the body, working to where we can feel the stretch but not pushing into pain. Let's begin with some stretches that start from the head and work down. Begin with head turns, side to side, like this. Ideally, we want the same range of motion in each side. 6 times each side. Take the arm over the top like this and pull gently to stretch. What we do on one side, we must always do on the other side like this. This is stretching down here. You should be able to feel that. Take the arm across like this, and we are stretching out the shoulder and the tricep. This is important with EDMD because this is one of the affected areas. I'm lucky enough to have a boxing ring here, and I would use this to stretch my chest and also to help with the biceps. So I put my hands close together and move away like this. If you don't have a boxing ring, you can use a table quite easily. To help with stretching the biceps, we can put our arm against a wall, a door frame, or anything that is solid. And what we can do is we can push the shoulder forward and turn this way there to stretch. I can feel that stretching out the biceps and my shoulder. Repeat on both sides. That's going to be particularly relevant. I also would like to see movement like this, which is going to warm up and mobilize these joints here. Try and work through a full range of motion rather than working through something fast. Moving to the midsection, there are many different versions that are going to work. Some people prefer to hold a position like this and to twist there. My preference is to do hip circles, hands on hips, and just turn like this. And these should be done slowly so that we can feel all of the muscles of the leg and of the bum being stretched. I like to do around about 6 in each direction. Also, I like to do twists like this. If you have a broomstick, put the broomstick across here, turn to a full 90 degrees there and there. So we're turning 90 degrees in each direction, or 180 degrees in total. This can be done with the feet fixed to the floor, or you can allow your feet to begin to pivot. But ideally, we want to turn 180 degrees like that, if possible. Down to the legs. Now stability is an issue, I've been told, so hold on to something solid, like a table, something like that. Both feet pointing forward, take that down and hold. If that's difficult, only stretch part of the way like this. But it's important to hold on to something when you're doing this so that you don't fall over. Just bend down there, stretch out the hip flexors. You can as well then turn the back foot sideways, stretch out the adductors. These are the muscles that bring the legs together. This is going to help you stretch this and give you some kinesthetic and proprioceptive awareness, which is going to add stability to your footwork. When we stretch the front of the legs, we must also stretch the back, the hamstrings. Pull the toe up, lean forward, and I would hold on to something good and solid there. Try to use as little pressure as possible, so most of the balance is yours. What we do on one leg, we always do on the other leg. Without any doubt, the final stretch is going to be the most important stretch. The lower leg, the gastrocnemius and the soleus, the parts of the calf. This is going to give us proprioceptive awareness as well as a little bit of strength and flexibility in this area, which is going to give us stability when standing, moving and punching. This one's the most important stretch of all, in my opinion. You'll need a wall or something solid to do this. Lean against the wall like this and put your heels on the floor like that. One foot in front of the other. Lean forward like this until you feel the back of the leg here stretching. This is for the gastrocnemius, the big part of the calf that sits on the outside. Then what we do is we raise up the heel and push down the knee down here. And this is going to stretch the soleus, the part of the calf muscle that sits underneath there. Hold each stretch for around about 8 seconds. Now, Brendan, in your case, I think you should be doing this 3 times each leg. This is very, very important. At the other side there, hold that, and then lift and push down there. The less balance you can put on something, the better, but for safety, I would feel happier if you hold on to something, even if you're just putting one hand on, just so that you're holding on, so that you've got good balance and don't fall over. Because you're going to have most of your weight on one leg when you do this, that's a challenge. It's going to strengthen while stretching. Once we're warmed up, we can move on to some strengthening. Now, hitting the punch bag offers resistance. That's great, that's going to give you some strengthening. However, hitting the punch bag doesn't mean that we're always working through what I would refer to as a full range of motion. A full range of motion means using the joint which we'll be using as a fulcrum. In this case, which is the elbow joint, we need to use that through its full range of motion. So, pick an appropriate level of resistance. And I've got here what we call the biscuit. In gyms, we call these biscuits because these are the smallest weights that we have and they weigh very little more than a biscuit. What's not important is the weight. What is important is the number of repetitions and the use of full range of motion. Full range of motion when we're strengthening the bicep muscle, which is one of the areas that is affected, is from straight down like this, all the way up like this. So all the way up and all the way down like this. It's important that we don't cause neuromuscular fatigue. Now, neuro is the nervous system. Muscular is the muscle system, the connection between the two. And you know when you've achieved neuromuscular fatigue because you'll begin to judder like this. So we must use a weight that isn't going to induce that. So this can mean that we use a lighter weight, but we do more repetitions. What we're going to do is we're going to work in what we would term the hypertrophy range. Hyper, increasing, trophy would be the muscle size. So hypertrophy will add muscle size without fatiguing the neural system, which is going to be operating that muscle. Hypertrophy range is between 8 and 12 repetitions. I'd like you to use a weight that's going to allow you to do between 8 and 12 repetitions on each arm. So if we have a weight here and a weight here, we can alternate like this, or we can lift together like this. And we want to do around about 3 sets. That means we will do 8, 9, 10, 11 or 12. Then we're going to rest. Now the rest is very important so that the neural system can reset. Now what we'll do is we'll take a rest of 1.5 minutes. Then we do another set of 8 to 12 repetitions. Make a note of what weight you can do and keep a record of this because it will increase as you can do this. But during that rest period, we can also do something else to begin to strengthen somewhere else, because that rest period is just wasted time otherwise. Here's a great exercise for the tricep, the back of the arm. What we do is we take the weight, often just the same weight, and we put our arm here, keep this in this position, and this is going to stretch this. Now this is going to give us some passive stretching, and it's going to counteract those contractures. Straighten the arm all the way up, all the way down, all the way up, all the way down. Then repeat on the other side. Then we can go back to our bicep curls. We're going to work both sides of this affected area. The other area that's affected by EDMD is the calf muscles. So let's have a look at some calf muscle exercises. And we have to be careful with this one. For the calf exercise, we need something that is raised, maybe a brick, or in this case, the side of my boxing ring. Hold on to something to prevent overbalancing. Go up, point the toes down, then back down, like this. Once again, we're going to work in the hypertrophy range of 8 to 12 repetitions. This also is giving us a little bit of a stretch like this, so there is an element of passive stretching. If this is too difficult to start with, we can begin on the flat of the floor and just point like this. Eventually, we want to try and aim to get strong enough to be able to do this on one leg like this. Though this is very difficult and you should hold on to something so you don't overbalance. When you're doing your punches, I can see there are some parts of the technique that are more difficult. What I'm seeing is I'm seeing some very good straight punches, but I'm seeing problems with the hooks and the uppercuts. I think what we could do is slow those punches down. Work once again in that repetition range of 8 to 12. This is going to mean that we're not going to fatigue too quickly, but we're going to do it in sets. So when we do this in sets, we're going to be able to replicate this with good technique and, more importantly, safety. I notice when you're throwing your punches, your hooks, particularly off your left arm, what's happening is this elbow is coming up high. And because of a destabilization around here, what I'm finding is when you hit, it's destabilizing and raising up like this. Now this can cause a problem for the wrist. What I'd like you to do is to throw your punch with your hand in this position like this, keeping your hand, your elbow and your shoulder level. Don't allow the elbow to raise too high. And what we'll do is from this position, throw the punch to land, but don't hit with too much force. Just do this for technique. There, there. 8 to 12 repetitions with good technique, allowing the body to turn. Then I want you to rest. Then repeat. Do this 3 times each side. For body hooks, the same thing, but I know this is going to be difficult because of the range of motion. What I want you to do is bend your legs as far as you can and then repeat the same thing. So what I'd like to see is 8 to 12 on this side, 8 to 12 on this side, 8 to 12 here, 8 to 12 here. Then we come to the uppercuts. Now, your uppercuts I thought were good, but I can see that there's a problem again with stabilization around the elbow joint. That stabilization is going to come with the strength exercises. What we can do though is we can do the punches nice and slowly so that we get good technique. 8 to 12 repetitions here. Try where possible to do what I call plantar flexing the foot into the ground when you do this. If you need to hold on to something while you're doing this, so maybe hold on to a ring or hold on to the bag or another person, and then do 8 like this, plantar flexing, pointing your feet down into the ground. This is what plantar flexing looks like from the ground. So 8 head hooks on the left, 8 head hooks on the right, 8 body hooks on the left, 8 to the right, 8 uppercuts, 8 uppercuts. Begin with 8. Next week go to 9, then 10, then 11, then 12. 3 sets of those, taking a 1.5 minute recovery in between each. These will form strength and mobility exercises specific to you, which will allow you to be able to punch with better technique, better strength, better mobility. Then after that, by all means, go onto the bag, try and maybe slow down just a tiny bit to try and allow that good technique to replicate when you're throwing your punches in a boxing round. My suggestion is keep your boxing rounds around about 1 minute long. Try and take a 1 minute to 1 minute 30 second recovery. This way it's going to encourage good technique. The strength is going to be allowed to develop. One of the problems with strength training is that the most important part of strength training is actually the rest period. So even though sometimes you might think you're doing more when you're doing 2 minutes punching with a 1 minute rest, in some cases 1 minute punching with a 1 minute rest can actually be less means more. I know that sounds counterintuitive, however, that truly is the case. 1 minute on, 1 minute off, 1 minute on, 1 minute off. 3 rounds, that's going to be enough. Once you've done this, we can then go to doing some passive stretching. Passive stretching essentially means with a bit of assistance. Now, you can do this yourself, or you can do this with the help of somebody else. I like to use a wall, nice and simple, or you can even use a punch bag. And the punch bag will go here, and that will push my shoulder back with its resistance, and that will allow me to stretch out the bicep muscle. These exercises are very similar to the ones that we did earlier when we were doing these, but whereas we'll be holding them for 8 to 10 seconds, I now want you to hold them for 30 seconds. Once you hit that 30 seconds, you're going to notice that you're going to feel the muscle fibers relax and just pull apart a little like this. You're then going to hold it for a further 7 to 8 seconds. Let me demonstrate. Hold on to here, like that. Put some pressure against there, against that bicep. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold that for 30 seconds. So if I was counting, I'd get to 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Then I push a little bit further and I hold for a further 7 to 8 seconds while relaxing. Now this developmental form of stretching is what we used to term in the old days as 3PIC, and it's incredibly effective at increasing the range of motion. Now, the same thing is going to happen when you come to do your tricep stretch. We take it over the top there, get someone to pull it, or you can pull yourself with your other arm, hold it for 30 seconds, then a further 7 to 8 seconds. The calf stretch is exactly the same as we did before. Hold there, count to 30. You'll feel it relax, and to an extent it may even feel slightly warm. Then push a little bit further. That's for the gastrocnemius. Then the soleus, the same. Then repeat on the other side. Do this for the bicep and the tricep 3 times. For the calf muscles, 3 times also. You're going to find that a great deal of your session is actually time spent stretching. But contractures are one of the major issues for EDMD. So I want you to work on that and work on it religiously too. Stretching is going to be one of the most important parts of your training. You'll need to do the other stretches as well, but the passive stretching should focus on those 2 areas. So the upper arm and the lower leg. They're going to be the areas that are going to give you the most benefit. One thing we can't do is just set one program and expect it to work ad infinitum. There is no such thing. Things need to be reviewed. So I would love to see a video of you in 6 weeks. Show how the improvements have gone. Do a video back to me and tell me how you found, what difficulties you found, what you found easy, what's worked well, where you've improved, where you haven't improved. Because then I can revisit it, I can rethink it, and hopefully then try to improve it. Without your feedback, that will be impossible. It's important for a coach and an athlete to work together so that there's feedback between the 2. I wish you all the best of luck with that, Brendan. Please let me know how you get on. I hope that it helps. I really do. And the best of luck with your boxing.